What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike here, and today I am joined by musician, producer, and storyteller Dylan Holloway, better known as Dylan and the Moon, to discuss Tomorrow's Too Late, the award-winning documentary chronicling his journey through music, identity, and self-discovery. Following an acclaimed festival run that included Sheffield DocFest and the Rhode Island International Film Festival, the film will now be screening exclusively at London's The Arsner. Dylan, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you for having me. That was great. I might have to just bring you with me for all of my introductions because that would be really nice to be introduced like that more often.
So, diving in, Tomorrow's Too Late captures this incredibly personal chapter of your life over the course of several years. So, looking back now, what has it been like to watch that journey unfold on screen and revisit moments that at the time were just simply your everyday life?
Yeah, I mean, wow, big way to start the questions. It's a big one. Honestly, every single time I watch the film, there is something new about it that I'm able to watch as an observer as opposed to being a participant. So obviously, for your listeners, like the story is about me, and it was very much isolated me for quite a lot of it. The first half of the documentary we shot initially on iPhones and just one Sony camera because we needed to be fast about what we were capturing. So a lot of it happened with sort of me talking, having very sort of like candid moments with myself in my room and often ending up in tears. So then to be able to share that with audiences is one like super vulnerable. And it took me a few times to be able to watch it as like an audience member as opposed to being the person who was behind the camera too. So every single time I watch it, it's like a new experience. And I am forever grateful that we went forward with the decision to make this into a documentary because I think it's such a unique experience. One, to go through a transition that I went through, and two, to be able to have it documented and be able to watch and integrate yourself differently every time.
And there's a moment in the documentary where, we see your friends and your family and they're talking about the dead name and that move, but we also look at how you explore that decision to embrace rather than erase the earlier chapters of your life and your artistry. I'm curious, was there a specific moment while it was putting this documentary together, or after the fact, when you realized that those weren't something to leave behind but to really embrace and put into your work moving forward?
Yeah, totally. So for any of your audience who like don't know and haven't seen the trailer or anything, this whole documentary is about me as a musician, but also as a trans person. So I grew up as a boy in my mind, but inside a girl's body, and I could never make sense of that as a human being because to me I was very much a boy from the moment I was born, but I was wrapped up in this body which told other people otherwise. So I had built my life creating these barrier around me, and a lot of that was through music. So I had built like a financial stable career with a fan base of people who loved me as my previous female self and the voice that I had. And then when I brought it back to the forefront of my mind, like I still felt, even after building this wonderful life for myself, I still never felt completely whole as my past female self. I knew that going through this gender transition was something that was incredibly important for me as a human. But at the same time, it was incredibly risky for me to do that and put all of those things that I've just mentioned on the line. So I decided to call up one of my friends and say, like, we need to make this film and we need to document it because it's something that we won't be able to do again. So moving through that, like it was in the unfolding of like actually becoming more like myself, because I wouldn't be able to credit just myself to the decision to be able to keep my old life and my current life present. Because when I decided I wanted to transition, I initially very much wanted to put my old life in a box, and I wanted to sort of remove it from the public platforms. I wanted to take down all my old music. I very much wanted to move forward as Dylan, be Dylan, have everyone know me as Dylan. In fact, there was a point in my life that I was like, I don't even know if I want people to know that I'm trans. I just want to be this guy who makes music. And that was, I think, born out of like years and years and years and years and years of keeping Dylan inside lots. And for the first time in my life, I was now able to be Dylan, and I wanted to just be that guy who'd been trapped for so long. However, when I told my mum, actually, when I was going to like put all this stuff away, she said to me, this is your life and it belongs to you for you to do what you want with. But if you could just wait for a minute, like, and just wait for a month, and then just wait for 6 months, just to see how you feel on the other side. And like, I was frustrated with that at the time because, you know, I just wanted to go be Dylan. But I do find that mums, if you're lucky enough to have them, like, they do sometimes know a lot and they are wise people. So I listened to her and I kept all my old music there. And thank God I did, because it was in the round, like, in the becoming of myself, the more time between being Lots and becoming Dylan had passed, I was then able to look at Lots and my previous life and remember that that is the reason that I am existing today, and that like that version of me did all of the hard work so that I could exist as me now, this like fun-loving, free, like carefree guy who just gets to sort of go around the world and be telling happy stories. Actually, there was a version of me who existed, made it possible for me, and at one point I was just going to put them in a box, and I realized how cruel that was. And for the first time I was able to experience like how other people would have really found that difficult, because for me, I needed to like have a moment where I disconnected from Lots so I could breathe as Dylan. But for everyone else who could see me and the history they had with Lots and my previous, I was about to remove that from them. And I can see why that's threatening to people. And I can see why that kind of like is quite uncomfortable for families and uncomfortable for friends. So it was only in the journey that I was able to like understand myself a bit more. And I think that's something that maybe I in future might be able to help people with. And it's why we put the documentary together in the way that we did, because I didn't realize that I would be able to have the life that I have now, where I can embrace fully who I was before.
So as you started combining your current voice with your recordings of your pre-transition self, what was that experience like, and how has that shaped your musical journey?
Yeah, so making like the trans male and female duets where I am both of the characters is like, it's still very moving to me every time I do it, especially when I perform it live. So even though I know people in the audience are experiencing it for the first time and it's very emotional and moving to them, I could have done it like 56 or 7 or 80 times, and like there's still something new in it every single time. Because for me, it feels like if you've ever been unfortunate to lose a friend or a family member, and then you get to hear a voice recording of them, it fills you with this history and memory that kind of just hits you like a train. So whenever I'm on stage and I see the old footage of me or that audio, I'm just reminded of all the memories and the history, and it could be a different memory that pops up every time. And it lives inside listening to Lots' voice. So I never don't like doing it. It brings me a lot of joy and emotion and like empathy and compassion. And every time I do it, it kind of develops something new within myself. So yeah, it's a very unique experience that I'm very grateful to have.
And as you decided to do this, how did you first connect with the director, with Terry, and what gave you the confidence that, you know, he was the right person to help tell such a personal story?
Well, interestingly, the first person who started developing the film with me is a person called April Kelly, who's one of my best friends, and we shot the first 2 acts of the documentary together, kind of on a very candidly iPhone and on a Sony camera. And it was then in sending a makeshift trailer that we made to another friend of mine called Hannah Shipley, who is a producer. And I sent it to her, and she was like, dude, this is an amazing story. I wish you had like told us 2 years ago, because we would have got involved then. But she showed it to her boss, Mike Huffam, who's the man behind Napoleon and House of Gucci and Mamma Mia. So they decided to come on board, and it was actually Mark's suggestion to bring on Terry Loane. They're both Irish. They both live up in like Belfast way, and they had a history that went all the way back to a film that Terry made when he was younger. And even though Terry had never made a documentary, Mark was very sure that like there's a guy he knows who can tell a story. So we were very pleased to welcome Terry, and especially Lauren, who's the editor of the documentary, onto our team, because together they did a phenomenal job. And I know Lauren particularly worked her arse off to make sure that like the story was told in such a beautiful way. So I will always be thankful for her involvement too.
And that was going to be my next question, was how closely, because you're also credited on the film as a producer, how closely did you work with Terry and with Lauren in coming up with the final edit? Because this is it's a very tight 63 minutes. It could have been longer. It's very succinct. Yeah. So what was your involvement like in the process?
my involvement was enjoyable for me, and I think from their side they'd probably be like, that guy and the amount of fucking notes that guy sent through. But it's a very important story to me. It's, you know, it's my life, it's my face, it's my, you know. So I think it was a loving relationship, and it was full of a lot of banter. They're Irish, for goodness sake, so we had a very good time making it. But I think I'm credited as a producer so much because it began, the first like 2/3 of the documentary really was me and another friend of mine making it together, and it started out as our baby, who, you know, we then got like godfathers and godmothers and other parents to sort of co-parent with us. So it was a very much like a labor of love for everyone involved, and it was very much like a group project. And I think that is why it feels so magical, because everyone had such good and unique and different things to say, and in that we ended up with a really special hour-long feature doc. And I can tell you, Lauren did such a good job, because we initially gave her about 78 hours of footage, because, you know, we shot the documentary for 4 years, and not only that, we included baby footage of me when I was a teenager, old pictures, so there was a lot of stuff for her to go through. But yeah, so the first cut of the documentary was about 4 hours and 50 minutes. And yeah, they did a phenomenal job at being able to cut it down. There was a lot of things to cover. There was a lot of moments of crying and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, it's a very special, emotional, impactful 1 hour doc.
Yeah. In that, your stage name, Dylan and the Moon, has become, you know, that's associated with your identity as an artist now. And I'm curious, for those new to your music, is there a story? I'm curious to know the story behind the name and how that meaning has evolved as you've gone on this new musical journey.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, something else that's quite a unique thing to do as an adult is to get to choose your own name. So, like, you know, we're all given names at birth, but like to be able to be 6 years old and decide I'm going to rename myself. I actually, for a moment, didn't know where to start. So I went to a website which was like baby names, where people would find names for their baby. And I was scrolling through like names and nothing was speaking to me. And I ended up sort of scrolling, and I just saw Dylan, and all of a sudden my like body lit up. It was very kind of like a full body experience. So I went to look up the meaning of Dylan, and in Welsh it means son of the sea, and half of my family were Welsh going back through my nan, and also I grew up by the seaside, and because it was specifically son of the sea, I was like, it's a boy, it's by the sea, it's Welsh, like it's very much me. So I never looked back from that. And then in choosing a new artist's name, I wanted something that was just a bit bigger than me as a person, because I had spent my whole, like, I started making music around 15, and until 27 I had like been putting out music under like different versions of my name, and it had always been very much attached to my identity, like who I was as a person. And for once I wanted it to be a much larger project, and I grew up on things like Bob Marley and the Wailers, and I just loved hearing, like, you know, something, and Florence and the Machine. And I was like, okay, well, I'll choose my own. And when I was a kid, my mum still reminds me that I used to like say goodnight to the moon. I was very fascinated by the moon when I would like go say goodnight to it through the window. So for me, the moon is like a magical part of our universe. And I think I just wanted to involve something, you know, that could feel like it was part of like a bigger universe than just being solely this one guy. It's something that other people can be involved in too.
And the film has already connected with audiences through its festival run, and now it's having this big theatrical release in London. So how does it feel to share the documentary in this setting? Have there been any audience reactions that have particularly stayed with you as you've been sharing this with the world?
Yeah, I mean, one particular memory jumps out. I came over to America, actually. We've shown in America a bunch of times over the last year, but on one occasion I came over to Arkansas, and we were in Fayetteville. And there was a young trans guy who was about 12 years old, who we met backstage with his mum before the film. And he was so shy, incredibly shy, and he couldn't really have a conversation with me. So I was talking to him through his mum. And then, you know, eventually they went and watched the film. And then afterwards, I was on the red carpet, and he came running over to me and gave me the biggest squeeze of his life. And his mum was like, you know, don't kill him, don't squeeze him too hard. And there's still a picture of us, like I have it, where the photographer captured this squeeze. And I then had this conversation with him afterwards, and he was like, I've never seen someone like me, and I'm like, can do this. And it was just like, I watched in real time how someone can see themselves through something like cinema and see themselves reflected in a character and finally unlock a part of themselves that they weren't feeling comfortable to express before. So it's moments like that that really have like, I will keep in my heart forever, because there'll be a lot of people hopefully around the world who will get to watch the documentary and have similar experiences, and unfortunately I won't be there with them to meet them, but it was really nice to see that firsthand. Yeah, so we're about to have a theatrical release in London, in South London at the Asda Cinema, and it will be in cinema from the 24th of July until the middle of August. And we've had nothing but wonderful, kind reviews about the film, and we've won, I think, 6 awards around the world so far. So it's been pretty moving.
And as you look ahead, what really excites you about the next chapter of your music? Beyond the songs like Heaven Now, which you re-released, are there other older pieces you're eager to revisit, or just really excited to head in this new direction?
Yeah, totally. So every time I come across something older from my catalog, I will think of a way that I can reinvent it in a new way, because it's such a unique thing musically to be able to do. So it kind of feels like it would be almost insulting if I didn't try to create more art from the work I've made before. So whenever I come across old music or old videos, I'll always try and be inventive about how I can use it in the future. And I'm really excited about the prospect of sharing this version of being, a trans person, because I think a lot of times in our community, it's kind of, I think it's pushed onto us that it's a good idea to squash our past lives because it's more palatable for other people to understand, like, well, you hated your old self so much that you've become this new person, and it's understandable. But actually, for me, I loved who I was and what I managed to bring out in myself, but I love even more who I am now because I'm fully whole. And I was uncomfortable before, and I was upset before, and I was in a dark place, even though I loved myself. And I want to share that as an expression, so other people can feel a bit liberated, that actually you don't have to go through this life shutting out past versions of you, because there is a world in which you can invite them all in, have them all at the dinner table, and still know that you're the one at the head of the table. You know what I mean? You can still be the one in charge, but having everyone there will make you feel more liberated, I think. And that's something I'm hoping to, inspire or have impact on in the future. Just giving people the opportunity to have a different experience if they want to.
So beautifully said. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today and sharing your experiences through both Tomorrow's Too Late and your music. I really appreciated this conversation. And thank you all to those of you that are watching. We will include the screening information on the film and social media links for Dylan and the like in the notes below, so you can check the film out if you're in the London area. And for everyone else watching, if you enjoyed this conversation, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel and like this video. Make sure so you can follow along for more filmmaker interviews, spoiler-free reviews, and you can visit my website, cinephilemike.com, for festival coverage and award season content. As always, everyone, this is Cinephile Mike reminding you to take a break and watch something new. Dylan, have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Mike. See you later.